Mark Edwards. I'm a professor of civil engineering at Virginia Tech.
Okay, and can you describe your position as it relates to the Flint water crisis?
I'm a member of a 40-person team from Virginia Tech, and we went to Flint and worked with the residents to expose the lead, Legionella, and leaks that were occurring in their water distribution system.
Okay, and you pointed me to a very important video that you did on December 2nd, where it was an event where you released the findings that you and your team did on the sampling of 150 homes. And what I found very interesting was it was really surprising and shocking because there seems to be this narrative that the Flint water is so dangerous and Flint doesn't have clean water, which might be true, but you were saying a lot of things that I think most people would be shocked to hear, such as it's the most monitored water system in the world, safe bathing water for those that have been monitored and sampled, and different things like that. So, before we get
Right.
into the technicality of things, let's get into the media portrayal. Do you think there's some kind of I don't know, like, is there some kind of manipulation to like a scare tactic to keep people misinformed and scared and different things like that in regards to this?
Well, I mean, people are scared, and with good reason, because
Hmm.
for 18 months they kind of went through hell and they were lied to by almost everyone who should have been protecting them. And unfortunately, once trust is lost, once bitten, forever shy for some people. And so they're not going to believe anyone, and they're not going to believe the water is safe. And probably the public health crisis has been mostly over since October of last year. And at that time, the state started protecting people from the high lead in water by giving them bottled water and filters. And the Legionella outbreak that we now know occur was mostly over at that time. And since then, and since the declaration of the federal emergency, literally thousands of people have been working to get this system fixed. We changed from the Flint River back to Detroit water. And the EPA is monitoring this around the clock. The state's monitoring it around the clock. We're taking samples. We've brought outside experts in. And so, frankly, it's one of the best monitored system probably in the world at this point. And I believe that with the filters, the water's safe. And the reason they're not declaring it safe is because they want to make doubly and triply sure that before they give it, the all clear, that it is safe. So they've been working really, really hard on this. I mean, realize I was very critical of the federal government, the state government for when they were screwing this up. And now I'm defending them because they're part of the solution. And, there is a lot of false statements going around about the water. Unfortunately, some groups came to Flint and did some fear mongering. There was a group called Water Defense who falsely claimed that you could breathe lead in the shower. They falsely claimed um, that there was high levels of chloroform in the water, that people should not bathe and shower. And that really did add a lot of fear to it. And as a result, many people stopped bathing, and actually that caused even more problems.
Okay. Now, the 150 homes that you sampled, what was the time frame? It was a year, August 2015 to about
We've
November?
sampled we've sampled a group of 154 homes every 3 months since August
Okay.
2015, then March 2016, July 2016, and then recently in November. Now realize Flint residents are collecting these samples.
Okay.
We're analyzing it for them, and we're being paid to do this by the US EPA. So the state of Michigan has nothing to do with these samples.
Okay.
There's other groups that are being samples being collected by the state of Michigan, but those samples are showing that the Flint water is much improved, as you would expect, given that they switched back to Detroit water, and also because they're doing the best corrosion control that you could do right now.
Now, at 150 Flint is a small city. 150 homes is not a lot, but I remember you said in the lecture that, or the findings that you gave, that basically um, there. I don't even know how this is even possible. That there were no records of lead in the homes. Correct. So you kind of
Well,
have to
that's true.
do it randomly.
Right. When we
Okay.
started, we didn't have the records on where the lead pipes were. Now, history has shown that this is a pretty high risk pool. It's agreeing with the data that's been collected by the states from homes with lead pipe. The agreement is very, very good. And so, frankly, that's partly because Flint is a high risk community. They've got a lot of lead pipes, in the city.
Mm-hmm.
So even our random sampling detected the problem back in August 2015. And by sampling those same homes, we kind of got our finger on the pulse of the water quality of Flint. And indeed, it's getting better. The iron corrosion's lower, the chlorine levels are higher, the Legionella is disappearing. In fact, the biggest problem we had this year
Mm-hmm.
was because of the fear created by this group who falsely claimed the water was too dangerous to bathe or shower in.
Mm-hmm.
And people started getting sick from a disease that's generally caused by not bathing or showering or washing your hands.
The Shigella, is that
Uh,
what you're referring to?
yeah, the
Yeah,
Shigella
yeah.
outbreak.
Yeah, and okay, we'll get on that. I was going to save that for later, but let's get on that. Now, I read in the article you said that because people were saying, well, how can we wash our hands as far as, in relation to that outbreak if we have lead water? And you said that they can
Right,
turn off the filter and use hot water. So do you
right.
think and what I'm trying to get to is, do you think this Shigella outbreak is a result of the fear tactic that people are afraid of the water, and it's like, well,
Well,
it made things worse?
there's no doubt it's because of the fear, in my opinion. Now, obviously, it's legitimate. You can never
Mm-hmm.
blame Flint residents for being afraid.
Exactly.
But there was
Exactly.
also this outside group that came in. It's called Water Defense. It's backed by Mark Ruffalo, the actor.
Mm-hmm.
And they started making all these false claims about how dangerous the water was to bathe. And that added, unfortunately, to the legitimate fears. So it kind of created a little bit of a panic. I mean, I had moms calling me and saying, these people are saying you shouldn't bathe or shower. What should I do? And I said, well, if you're not getting rashes or breathing difficulties, you need to continue bathing or showering. I mean, this is
Mm-hmm.
not, we in schools, you stop classes many times in a day, no matter what school you're at. It could be a poor urban school, it could be the richest school in the country,
Mm-hmm.
and you have students wash their hands. Why is that? Because you don't want them to get sick.
Right.
And so unless you set aside a time to do that, no matter where you are in the school, you're going
Mm-hmm.
to have kids getting sick. I mean, this is why it is. So too, we have to have messaging that makes sure people bathe. And so unfortunately, the message got messed up early on. That a lot of people thought they couldn't wash their hands in water with lead in it. Well, that's not a high risk activity. Lead can't go through your hands. It's really only your drinking water that's a problem. So
Mm-hmm.
then they started handing out these wipes
Right. Right.
to wipe instead of washing it. Well, the wipes are no good in terms of they're not as good as washing your hands in soapy water
Mm-hmm.
in terms of stopping this waterborne disease. And then you had the legitimate fears, then you had the false fears, and as a result, you had a horrible, Legionella outbreak. A lot of people got sick, and frankly, with no good reason.
And one of these outbreaks that I read, it makes you dehydrated. Correct.
Oh my, yeah, no, it's not a pleasant sickness.
So
I mean, as
yeah,
far as I know, no
it
one
gets
died.
worse and worse and worse. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So this is part of the problem of having a, sort of a failure of government. And the trust is lost, and some people are
Mm-hmm.
never going to trust the government again, and I get that. But as long as they're saying correct information, I'm going to back them up. If they're lying, I'm going to call them out on it.
Right.
Likewise, I called out this other group that came to town and started scaring people, and it's unfortunate that they were listened to.
Mm-hmm. Now, you said if you have in the lecture, you said if you have a lead pipe in front of your house, you should use a filter. Now, what is that? Would be everybody almost, right? the
That
majority.
is where we're headed. We used to fool ourselves. We used to think, oh, a lead pipe's not a problem. We can do corrosion control. We can keep the lead on the pipe out of the water. What we've been
Mm-hmm.
learning over the last, 5, 10 years, but especially this year, is that as long as you have a lead pipe in front of your house, that's a hazard, and you can never get rid of it. And so, in many cities around the country, they're going to start recommending filters. So probably in Flint,
Mm-hmm.
people are going to be recommended to keep using the filters until the lead pipe is replaced. But that's not anything particular to Flint. That's probably going to be
Right.
the sort of messaging you'll get all around the country. And we sort of owe Flint a debt of gratitude for proving that this was the case, because now we'll get kids protected in Milwaukee,
Mm-hmm.
Chicago, East Chicago, Philadelphia, other cities as well.
So does I know they have a bottled water center, a distribution center in Flint. Is there a like a plan to get the residents bottled? I mean, filters,
Oh,
lead
yes.
filters for
Yeah.
every single. Okay, and is that realistically feasible? And what's the time frame from what you
Yeah, no,
heard?
the state is, I haven't seen the final details yet, but they're going to be planning it. The water's probably been safe since about June or July of this year.
Okay.
But they're going to keep giving out the filters. They have been keeping giving out the bottled water. I think probably the first thing is they'll phase out the bottled water deliveries once it's safe. There'll be a time when residents can keep using the bottled water.
Mm-hmm.
There'll be another time period where they keep providing the filters. And so Flint has protection that other cities can only dream of because of the crisis. I mean, they're going to get free lead filters, and we could actually use those in other cities as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have a huge lead problem here in Cleveland, and the public
You do,
schools. Yeah, they
you
just
do.
found 60 schools here with lead problems or something. I mean,
No,
it's ridiculous.
I know that's the truth. It's this has been going on for 15, 20 years.
Mhm,
They never fixed the lead problem in the schools.
mhm. Now, stand on the lead filter. You said everyone should have a lead filter if they have lead pipes in front of their homes. And when you
Right.
look at when I looked at the common, I guess, life expectancy or lifespan of a lead filter, it's 6 months. So let's say realistically, if everyone goes out, or a lot of people in large numbers go out to buy this, do you think these companies are able to meet a high demand
Oh
of
yeah,
lead
no,
filters? Okay,
they can deliver the product. They're making money off it,
okay,
but it's still low cost in the scheme of things to protect yourself. If you compare it to replacing a lead pipe,
mm-hmm,
which is anywhere from $2,000 to $10,000,
mm-hmm,
you could buy a lot of filters for a lot of years before you were worried about the cost. By comparison, and these filters work. Now, you only use them to treat the water used for cooking or drinking.
mm-hmm,
And then if you don't have a lead pipe, you probably don't need it. So that's, probably Cleveland has some records on where the lead pipes are. I hope they're good.
mm-hmm.
But if you're sure you have a lead pipe or think you might, it might be a worthwhile investment. And again,
Okay.
you only use it to treat the water used for cooking or drinking. You can bathe, shower in water with lead in it. You can even brush your teeth in water that has lead in it, because you're not actually drinking that much water. So anyway,
Okay. Now, how realistic is it to fix the corrosion in the pipes versus an alternative? Like, is there a cheaper alternative for a water system, or we're kind of
now
screwed?
the
What
cheapest
do you think?
alternative is to
Okay.
one, do corrosion control and use a lead
Mm-hmm.
filter to protect yourself and your family. That's in the scheme
Mm-hmm.
of things not very expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third thing, in longer term, we need to get the lead pipes out of the ground and replace with something that's not lead. But until
Okay.
that time, if you buy a lead filter, you can be confident that your family is being protected from lead. Those filters work.
Okay. Okay. So, do you kind of see Flint being, I guess, a model, as you would say, in fighting, I guess, turning this government mishap and controversy into maybe a model for how to fight lead and
Oh,
corrosion pipes and different things
No
like that.
question. Since Flint, we've been looking for lead in other cities. We've been finding problems.
Mm-hmm.
Probably you found a few in Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of big cities admitted that they had a lead problem, that they were kind of covering it up, and we found lead in schools all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
And if it hadn't been for what happened in Flint, those kids would still be getting hurt by drinking that water. So it's actually,
Mm-hmm.
I know it's bad news, but sometimes bad news is good
Mm-hmm.
because you can't undo the harm from lead. You got to stop the exposure.
Mm-hmm.
And so let's get the bad news out. Let's get this problem fixed.
Okay, so
By the way,
we'll.
that is a beautiful house you have with the woodwork
Oh,
behind
that
you.
was.
Incredible.
So we'll wrap it up. I'm not going to take too much of your time. Can you give us a future um, overview of the future sampling, different houses, or since you've seen that there's improvement, just recommend lead filters and maybe move on to different
For
cities where
Flint
you
or for
plan to do.
elsewhere?
For Flint, and then you could say
Yeah.
elsewhere.
Flint is going to be
Okay.
monitored very, very closely for another couple of years because of what happened.
Okay.
The EPA is going to stay there. The state's going to keep monitoring. Michigan schools are looking at this. Virginia Tech is looking at it. Everyone's taking samples in
Mm-hmm.
Flint. And if there were anything
Okay.
unusual in that water, you would hear about it very, very quickly.
Okay. Well, thank you for your time. And I appreciate it, and we'll keep in touch if something big happens.
Awesome. Keep up the great work, man.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.